handful of well-known food service contract companies manage the dining operations at a huge number of K through 12 schools, universities, workplace dining operations. Because these companies feed millions of diners a day, their support of whole grains makes an enormous difference in making whole grains mainstream. Today, we're fortunate to have two of these major companies with us, one in person and one coming in through the phone. Jennifer Roberts is Senior Director of Nutrition Communications for Compass Group, where her training as a registered dietitian helps her advocate for healthy choices overall and whole grains in particular. Lisa Feldman is Director of Culinary Services for Sodexo and a certified research chef with extensive experience in culinary development. Since both of these roles, dietitian and chef play key parts in increasing consumption of whole grains. We're delighted to have them both here. And we'll start with our in-person Jennifer from Compass.
Thanks.
Welcome and thank you very much.
Thank you. I think they put one on me already, yeah. And I think they're dialing Lisa in, so she's probably around here somewhere. Okay, good morning all. So we'll get started with the obligatory who are we. In this room, I probably don't have to explain who Compass Group is as much. In some I do. But basically we are leading contract food service company, so we service a variety of cafes, cafeterias, whatever you would like to call them, everywhere from K through 12 schools to museums, stadiums, workplace cafes, colleges and universities. Pretty much anywhere you can eat out that's not a traditional restaurant, we're there, serving food. And just recently we were actually recognized by Fortune magazine as one of the top 50 companies that is changing the world one meal at a time, which I thought was a pretty cool designation, and you'll see how that plays into whole grains in a moment. If you haven't heard of Compass Group, you may have heard of one of our companies within Compass Group. These are our operating sectors. They each operate as almost individual companies, but these are the brands here. So you may have recognized some of those. Okay. So I thought today I'd talk a little bit about what we've been doing recently. I was at this conference a few years ago, and we talked about some of our initiatives around whole grains. Whole grains, I'm proud to say, have always been a big thing for us in Compass Group, always included in priorities for all of our wellness initiatives and our culinary ones as well. So I thought I'd talk about some of our recent activities and where we've seen some success. One of them is menus of change. Anyone heard of menus of change? Yes, yay. Okay. So it is basically an initiative to improve the health and sustainability of food service menus. And this was the brainchild of those at CIA and Harvard School of Public Health. So it's an initiative to kind of move food service menus forward in both wellness and sustainability areas. So we have gotten on board and made a commitment to menus of change, and we've committed in 4 areas, which is why you see the 4 little pictures there. So for these purposes, I'm just highlighting what our grains commitment is, but we do have commitments in the areas of fruits and vegetables, whole grains, reduced beef, and conscious menuing. So for grains, what we've said is that we are going to basically put whole grains everywhere you would see a grain-type side dish or other dish. So anytime we're serving something that would be grain-like, there should be whole grains there, with the goal, in terms of being measurable, of increasing our purchases of whole grains 5% each year, year over year, over the next 3 years. So our first year of this was 2015. And what you'll see is we got close, 4.3% increase in whole grains in 2015. Part of that I credit with the fact that we were already doing quite a bit with whole grains, so moving the needle isn't always as easy when you're already kind of doing quite a bit. But what we have seen so far this year is that we really have been pushing it. And a couple of the things that have been going on there, and I think are important when you're trying to make changes in food service, we have hit this from every level of the company. So one thing that's different, I would say, from 2015 to 2016, where you've seen a bigger jump there, obviously repetition, right? So we're saying this at every meeting. We're talking about menus of change. We're incorporating it into the principles of menus of change into our existing programs. So if somebody was already going to run a Heart Month promotion, you're going to see menus of change components in there. So we're kind of getting entrenched in existing programs. And then what we've also done is really up our game when it comes to training. So we went back and developed videos, short videos, 2 to 3 minutes, that were aimed at our hourly associates, because we found that, well, yeah, we need the chefs to all get it, and the chefs, for the most part, I would say, all pretty much get it. I'm looking over there. I see someone in white, so I'm going to nod. So we pretty much, the chefs get it, the directors get it, but our hourlies weren't always getting the message. So we created videos directed to our hourly associates on each of our commitments around menus of change, so that they could be shown directly to our hourly associates, so they not only understand why we're doing this, but then they're able to help our guests understand it. So if the person on the line understands why we've increased our whole grains, and they're able to talk about it, and talk about it knowledgeably, we find it makes a really big difference. And so I think I credit that with a big chunk of our improvement over the past year, is really getting to all levels of our organization, which in an organization as large as ours is not always so easy. So I think we're doing pretty well there. Some examples of how we're doing this. The last time I was here, I think I talked about we needed sandwiches. We needed bread that we could make sandwiches on, because we needed lower sodium but more whole grain, kind of a fun mix. So we have, obviously, some of those products in our distribution now. So we've just looked at, what could the potential impact be. And I think there's the stat that was back there, we're somewhere between 8.5 and 9 million meals a day that we serve. So the potential impact is huge, but how do you even get your head around that? So what we did was we looked at measurements in one cafe. This cafe, I believe, is based in Charlotte. And what they did was they switched over all of their fit sandwiches to just being on the whole grain bread that we were able to include and have it meet the criteria, and then show, what's the story behind that? What does that mean for our customers? And so with that, we're able to show all this extra fiber and just a little bit of extra benefit globally, because sometimes it can be a hard sell as to why we're trying to make changes. And in the world of contract food service, we report to 2 groups. Obviously, in food service, you're always going to be obligated to your customer who eats your food, but in contract food service, we also have our client. And so making the case to our client is important as well. And so stories like this help to do that for us. Another thing that I think is huge and I think really has a big impact is having that collaboration between chefs and RDs and putting someone in front of the customer who is able to talk about this with excitement. Just having a little bit of extra knowledge and a little bit of excitement and having some samples, I think is always helpful. So we have dietitians who will go out and set up a whole display and have recipe cards, have tips, have samples of food that they can then go into the cafe and purchase if they'd like to for lunch. And we end up getting a lot of good feedback from our customers this way, and also kind of build up a little excitement. People tend to, in our world, because they come through the cafe multiple times a week, things tend to blend in, and it's sometimes hard to get them to notice when there's something new and exciting going on. So we have to sometimes make a bigger splash about it. So this is one way to do that. And we see a lot of good success with this. Quite often, I would say the RD table is popular, but the chef and RD combined is also really popular, especially if you can include some live action demo cooking by the chef. That really kind of ups the game a little bit and makes it even more interesting. Another piece that I think is a little bit on the newer side for us, although we've been doing flexitarian for years, is embracing the plant-forward movement. And that was what you saw the Fortune acknowledgement for changing the world, that was really based on our push towards a more plant-forward diet. And with a plant-forward menu, you're seeing a really good place for grains, right? Because as much as I love veggies, people don't want to just eat a plate full of veggies, right? They need something else there. And I think grains are just such a natural fit there to have really flavorful, satisfying, plant-forward meals. And so we're seeing a lot more incorporation of whole grains as we're working on this whole plant-forward movement. The Veg Revolution is kind of, I guess, a funny name, but we're actually taking our chefs throughout the company on tours of traditional restaurants, so kind of taking a cue from the retail environment, that are really doing great things around plant-forward menus, and we're literally touring them around these different restaurants so they can get ideas and then take those ideas and bring them back to our business in terms of how to increase this kind of plant-forward idea. And so that, I think, is really helping to drive whole grains as well, because we're seeing them beyond the traditional stuff. Excuse me while I make sure I'm still on time. So, I think that's what we're doing right now, and I think that might be my last slide. Yep. So that's what we're doing right now, and I thought I'd also just kind of finish up with a little bit of what do we need, because this is always my favorite time to ask for stuff. So when we're looking at trying to, really elevate the position of whole grains in our business, some of the things we're looking for is, like I said, the plant-forward piece. So ideas, products that will fit in really well with a new plate model. So picture the meat being the accent, not necessarily the center. So now we have to fill the center, right? So coming up with ideas to make whole grains be part of that versus just on the side. So products that work that way, as well as ideas. We love ideas around how to prepare these items. So we'll take ideas from anybody. So I think that's a big thing. We also are doing a lot, as you can imagine, in schools. And one of our big challenge areas is breakfast. For those of you who haven't been in a public school lately, you'll know that a good chunk of the schools that serve breakfast have to do so in the classroom. And the wish is we want great whole grain breakfast items that have nice clean labels, that are not overloaded with sugar, and can be served in a classroom. So, we're not like serving up these big, beautiful hot meals necessarily all the time, because a lot of schools have the old cafegematorium, and there may be a PE class going on during breakfast time, so they can't actually use the cafeteria. So that's an area I think we're seeing an opportunity for a lot of growth in. And I would say the whole grain products paired with the clean ingredient push, I think, is true across our business. People don't necessarily just want to see whole grain Oreos. Not that whole grain Oreos aren't great. We need more variety than that. We need product that actually has whole grain and is also at the same time really good for you. And another piece, I showed earlier that we've committed to this menus of change principles, and we're really holding ourselves to measuring that and knowing what are we doing year over year in each of these categories. And one area we struggle a little bit with, although it's getting substantially better, is being able to measure which of our products coming in are in fact whole grain. Based on solely the description in the purchasing arena, sometimes it's tough. Like if product has been reformulated to increase whole grains, but it's not included in the description or the attributes, we're not necessarily capturing that in any way that's measurable. And so more and more we're looking to get our information from GDSN as part of the GS1 initiative. Those of you who are manufacturers will know what all of that means, but we basically are looking for a better electronic communication of the attributes of the product. And there is an attribute in GDSN to indicate whether or not your product is whole grain. And so doing that, publishing that data, means we can pick it up and we can measure it, which is big for us. We need to be able to really judge whether or not we're being successful as we're trying to move whole grains forward. So I think that was what I had, and it's time for Lisa somewhere from the sky over phone.
Lisa in the sky with yeah, right. Okay, have we got Lisa? I'm the picture of Lisa. Oh, there. Okay. You're clicking back there? Do you want me to click?
Hello, this is Lisa, currently speaking from the sky, also known as Maryland. So I just joined you today. I had a little bit of a medical emergency that I had to handle, and as a result, they have managed to patch me in so that I can show you this great presentation that we're working on with the whole grain council around what Sodexo is doing to increase access to whole grain for all of our consumers. So, next slide, please. Really quick agenda. Why do we care about this? Why is it important to Sodexo that we provide whole grain solutions for our customers? And this is a little bit important to touch base on quickly. Going to touch a little bit on some strategies for today and strategies for tomorrow. What's coming down the pike for us at Sodexo? And I will preempt strategies for tomorrow by telling you that some of what I'm going to show you is still new that hasn't rolled out yet. And so the examples I'm showing you are a little bit rough because they're right out of our test kitchen and show you like up to the minute what we're working on. Next slide, please. So why do you care? Next slide. Why does Sodexo care about whole grain? Why are they important? Well, Sodexo, like most contract food service companies, serves guests at really every stage of life. I mean, from the time children are born in hospital to elementary school, middle school, high school, into college, into the military, into business environment, into retirement. We really have a full range of solutions at every stage of life. Again, quality of life is really our mission statement, and it's core to our corporate vision. It's really ingrained in our culture. And because of that, really, we focus a lot on health and wellness. And as Jennifer mentioned, there is a lot of clinical activity happening now. There's more awareness of whole grain and their importance in the diet than there used to be. And so, to be completely honest, it's also a competitive advantage to have very solid whole grain solutions for our guests. Obviously, everybody sitting in the room today is aware of the correlation between consuming whole grain and increased health benefits. So basically, from our perspective, it's really a no-brainer to increase whole grain solutions in our offer. Next slide, please. That's it for today. So what are we working on today? Next slide. What are we doing in the whole grain space? So we've included whole grain solutions today in our units where you could walk in and actually do the operation in a variety of our units. First is Mindful. Mindful is our overarching platform, our health and wellness platform. It is deployed right now in business industry, healthcare, campus, and the military, and as you'll see a little bit later, starting to deploy in schools as well. Whole grain has been worked into many of our offers and limited time offers as well. Foodservice, which is a new product line, which is a consumer-facing snacking strategy for Mindful that's proprietary to Sodexo. Within CMU, we go to work around both order stations as well as incorporating whole.
Okay, great. Through the magic of technology, we have been assured that Lisa can hear the questions when we talk on the mic, too, so we can have questions for either one. And please remember the perspectives here. Lisa is on the chef side, and Jennifer is on the dietitian side. So we have two very important perspectives. We're two of the largest contract food service companies here, and so whatever side your questions take, if you have a question for one or the other, please tell us. Anybody here? They gave such complete presentations, no questions, no.
Okay, well, I guess I should address this, and I want clarity, and maybe I need to talk to you personally, but I've been teaching people about whole grain nutrition since 1992, mostly catering to families. 2005, we opened a bakery. We mill our own flour in the bakery, and within an hour it's in bread dough or muffins or cookies or whatever. I've reached out to schools. I've reached out to, in fact, we did some in-service for school cafeterias. At my store, we did classes. But through our bakery, when we've reached out to like senior centers or all this, they say, we're under a government contract. How do you break into that? We make a delicious muffin that's completely all whole grain, freshly milled, honey, olive oil, no bad ingredients at all. So how do we get there? How can we supply muffins for schools? Are you the company we talk to, or what do we do? How do we do this?
So I'll answer for us, and I'll let Lisa answer for Sodexo. So in that case, we, as a company as large as we are, we do have an entire division dedicated to procurement. So they are who arranges our contracts and who purchasing goes through. With that said, chefs on site will often bring product to the attention of the procurement and say, hey, this is something we think we should look at, and it goes through that channel. But in most cases with large organizations, you're going to want to find out who the procurement group is and go through them. So in our case, our procurement team is called Food Buy. And so everyone who's worked with Food Buy knows who Food Buy is. But that's our procurement side. But I would say generally across the board, if you're looking globally and you say, oh, hey, locally I want to talk to this person, what you want to find out is it a self-operated food service, or are they working with a contract vendor like ourselves or Sodexo or another? And then your direction will be different based on that. A lot of the self-ops are actually buying into buying groups that act similarly to our procurement division, but they're designed for self-ops. So you want to find out basically what's their purchasing system so that you can get in touch with the right people. We have 200,000 associates in North America. You could very easily get the wrong one if you just happen to go into an account so you need to find out who the procurement people are. Yep.
Lisa, anything to add to that?
Well, I would agree with Jennifer. Procurement is one of the toughest nuts to crack for an organization our size, because generally what we're asking a supplier to provide for a small supplier is difficult at best. And so I would answer the question as somebody who cares deeply about food and not necessarily a Sodexo person, but I think that the first thing that you need to do is make sure that you've got your ducks in a row in terms of making sure that your product's priced properly, that it's at 51% or more, that, it credits as a 1 grain or 2 grain or whatever it is that it needs to hit to meet the NSLP requirements, and then priced correctly. Once you get through that, I think it's a matter of getting on the radar of your local school districts and discovering whether they are contracted or self-op. And if they're self-op, there's probably steps to take to get your muffin placed, assuming that it is not cost prohibitive for them to do that. I'm happy to have a conversation offline about, what my thoughts are about small companies trying to get products into the pool. That's helpful at all.
Okay, we're running short of time, but if there's one other pressing question, we could take it. Anybody just have to ask a question? All right, I want to thank both of our speakers, and especially Lisa, for getting up from her sickbed and joining us. Thank you very much to both of them. Thank you, Jennifer. Okay, now we are going to take a break, and we are going to get back here at about 10:30, maybe 10:33, since we lost 3 minutes here. But do get back because we have a jam-packed program and we want to keep moving with it. Thank you.